Hey guys, what's up? This is Brett. Welcome to the Halloween edition of Friday on the Turntable. As you can tell from the title, I'm going to be showing 5 horror film soundtracks on vinyl. I'm very excited. I love Halloween. I love this time of the year. And I thought I would pick 5 things from my collection that, for me, are 5 really excellent horror film soundtracks. So I'm just going to start right off the bat here with one of my favorite movies of all time. This is The Omen from 1976. The soundtrack was done by Jerry Goldsmith, and he actually won an Academy Award for, I think, Best Original Score. The opening track, which is kind of like the Omen's theme, is called Ave Santani, and it's a really dark. Most of the soundtrack is very choral with voices. And it's really intense, it's really creepy, and they really don't make horror movies like this with this kind of special of a soundtrack. And the soundtrack is on this weird tattoo record label. I'll show you the label there. Phenomenal soundtrack. Jerry Goldsmith also did Poltergeist, Planet of the Apes, Alien, Total Recall. And so for those of you guys unfamiliar with The Omen, which could be surprising because I think this movie was such a popular film. It's kind of about a U.S. diplomat and his wife. They have a baby, and the baby dies in childbirth. But there's a priest that convinces Gregory Peck's character to adopt this other baby whose mom died giving birth, and that baby turns out to be the Antichrist, Damien, and who is seen here on the back. And I'm often told that when I was a kid I looked just like him, so kind of a cool little thing. So people sometimes think that I am Damien. So anyways, that is The Omen from 1976. Can't recommend it enough. Also, I'm going to have a link to my blog in the description box. So I'll put some links on that page so you guys, if you want to buy the movie or look up the soundtrack or whatever, by all means, please do that in the description box down there. So this is my favorite movie of all time. And the soundtrack for this one is kind of a rarity because shortly after it was released, it was pulled because of some licensing issues. And I don't believe it's ever been reissued on CD or vinyl or anything. And this film is based off of Stephen King's 1977 novel, The Shining. I'm super happy to have this in my collection. This is actually a promo copy. A friend of mine gave me this a couple of years ago as a birthday gift, and I was just completely blown away. It was something I was searching for years. So The Shining, what can I really say about the movie? The original had Jack Nicholson, Shelley Duvall, Scatman Crothers, and the little boy who played Danny, and that's just an irreplaceable cast. Phenomenal. It was remade in the late 90s, but it's a writer slash school teacher goes out to be the caretaker at the Overlook Hotel in Colorado, and the big hotel is haunted and kind of possesses him, and it's just such a great film, great book, and the soundtrack is so chilling. It starts with the main theme, which is kind of like The Shining's main theme, and of course the film was done by Stanley Kubrick, and who worked with Wendy Carlos before, who was an electronic kind of pioneer soundtrack artist, and he had done some work on Clockwork Orange prior to this, and he did the main theme is based off of a piece of music, if I can pronounce it, Dies Irae. It's a 13th century Latin hymn which was kind of reused by Hector Berlioz in Symphonie Fantastique, and that kind of theme is used electronically, really ominous, really dark, in that opening scene of The Shining where they're driving to the hotel through the mountains, and I've driven on that road, and it is so amazing, and that soundtrack works so perfectly. And interspersed between those, the electronic stuff by Wendy Carlos and Rachel Elkind, who worked with Wendy with her. There's also some classical pieces interspersed throughout that. So The Shining, killer soundtrack, killer movie, amazing book. Oh, and the just actually a couple weeks ago, after what is it, 36 years, Stephen King released the sequel, Doctor Sleep, to The Shining. So I've been reading some other music bios, so I haven't had a chance to dig into this. But I'll have a link to grab this as well on that blog link down in the description box. Doctor Sleep. All right, going in chronological order. So we're going to jump forward to 1983. I've recently showed this one. David Cronenberg, filmmaker, has done a lot of stuff, from Scanners, which was a movie that I remember when I was a kid, seeing the preview for Scanners and My Bloody Valentine back in, what was that, 1980, I think. And I just remember with my brothers, and we were, you know, that was the movie at the time that was so freaky because a guy's head explodes, and it was a movie that we were all, you know, so like excited to see because it was such a taboo, weird thing that never happened in a movie before or whatever. But in 1983, David Cronenberg did Videodrome, which featured James Woods and Debbie Harry from Blondie. And the movie is really kind of a bizarre one. It's a guy who's like the CEO of a TV station. He intercepts like this feed that comes through, and it's this really intense torture weird thing going on, and so he wants to track down the source of that so he can show it on his really smutty TV channel, and all these crazy weird things start to happen. And Cronenberg's a really good friend is Howard Shore, and the soundtrack is really interesting because it's, let me see if I can try to describe this. Howard Shore composed it for an orchestra, but then instead of having an orchestra play it straight off the bat, he programmed all the parts into a synthesizer and then played it back with a small string section so the two kind of intertwine together, and it creates this really interesting dynamic. I just dropped the needle on this just before I started filming, and it was like I just wanted to kind of sample it just to listen to a few tracks, and then I just started getting so drawn into it because it's a really intriguing soundtrack. The movie is bizarre, and Cronenberg also did, besides Scanners, he did, oh my god, what is it? A Naked Lunch, which was a William Burroughs film that came out in '91 with the guy from RoboCop, can't remember his name. Dead Zone, the Stephen King, the original movie that had Christopher Walken, and the more recent film with Viggo Mortensen, The History of Violence. So yeah, Videodrome. Yeah, really cool. Moving on then to the same year, this is a film that I remember, you know, renting on VHS, and because of two main things. Because number one, David Bowie was in it, and number two, the band Bauhaus is in the opening scene, and it is the opening scene of The Hunger is so killer. It's Bauhaus performing in a club, and they're performing Bela Lugosi's Dead, and you mostly see Peter Murphy in a cage performing it. But interspersed between that opening scene is David Bowie and Catherine Deneuve from Belle de Jour. They're vampires that are out hunting prey, and they bring this guy and this girl back to their place. And while Bela Lugosi's Dead's going on, they're killing these two people, and it's such an intense scene, and it's so perfect. But the soundtrack doesn't include any of those cool, the more rock-based stuff. It's interspersed between, how do I say it? Classical pieces, which amazing Schubert's Trio in E flat on cello, which is beautiful, and Bach's Suite No. 1 for solo cello in G major, just incredible. And then it kind of reprises that Trio in E flat at the end. But interspersed are these from Michael Rubini and Denny Yeager. There's really dark electronic pieces with percussion, and it's just a really intense listening, and it's really unsettling. And this, as well as the Videodrome soundtrack, are both on the Varese Sarabande record label. Definitely seek out. This one isn't very hard to find. I think I found this copy several years ago. And this was also directed by Tony Scott, I should also say. And Tony Scott just died, I think it was last year. He committed suicide. I think it was in Long Beach, California. And he is the brother of Ridley Scott, who did Blade Runner. And sad story, but this movie, The Hunger, is definitely worth seeking out. It's a bizarre film. Susan Sarandon's also in it. All right, lastly, my number 5 pick here that I wanted to show, and I just rewatched the movie today because it's such a it's a zombie movie, but it's kind of a black comedy at the same time. And this is in its Return of the Living Dead. Hopefully you can see it. I have my copy still in the shrink wrap here with the original little sticker. The movie is kind of about, not kind of, it is about this government, this army misplaces this tank that has these, I don't know, alien type bodies in it with this type of gas that's holding them in there. And it's at this some medical warehouse, and these guys accidentally release this toxic gas which spreads and it reanimates the dead, and they come to life, and it's zombies. But these zombies they talk and they're all after brains, and it's just really funny. It's the cast is ridiculous, and the soundtrack is so much different than these because it's a pure like death rock, LA punk rock soundtrack. It has the Cramps on it doing Surfing Dead. It has 45 Grave, TSOL, The Flesh Eaters, Rocky Erickson, The Damned, The Tall Boys, Jet Blackberries, and SSQ. This is such a cool soundtrack. Seek out the movie if you haven't seen it, and it spun some, I don't know, 2 more sequels after it or whatever. But anyways, guys, I hope you enjoyed that. I had a blast putting this together. Like I said, I love Halloween. I love horror movies. I love horror soundtracks, and yeah, it was nice. So, anyone out there wants to start a little thread here, show some horror movie soundtracks for Halloween, that would be really cool. So I'll have a link down in the description box if you guys want to check out any of those movies or seek out any of the soundtracks. So thanks for watching, guys. Talk to you soon.